Hello, chess friends! How are things with you? Let's take a look at another game. Welcome to Analyze Our Games, part 41. So I played black. This time I played the Sicilian defense. Take a look. e4, c5. So it's a good old friend of mine, so I decided to play it this time. Knight f3, d6, d5, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, attacking the pawn, knight c3, a6, the Najdorf, bishop e3, knight g4. So here I attacked my opponent's bishop, and then I asked him, would you like to exchange my knight for your bishop? My opponent said no. He came back to c1. Okay, then I came back to f6. That's the Najdorf. And then my opponent deviated the course of the game, because we could have drawn if he continued, or of course I would play something different. Yeah, I wouldn't like to draw this early. So f3, then e5. So this is courageous, because one of the problems of this line is that the point d5 is gonna be weak, sort of, and then all the fight will be around this square. Knight b3, bishop e6. So I'm gonna put some pieces around this square to defend it. So this is the idea of this opening, this defense. Bishop e3 again. Now he can play this, because now my pawn can't go, my knight can't go to g4. b5. So this is a mistake. I remember I studied this before, and black has to wait for white long castling to play b5. So at this moment it's not correct. I think a little bit better would have been to play bishop e7 to get ready for the short castling. And then after, for example, queen d2, then I would play something different, and if white castles, then I would play b5. So that's the thing to do here. So I prematurely played b5. It's not a bad mistake, but it's not so accurate. And my opponent gave me the the mistake, the little mistake again. So he played a3. So it's much better to play a4 immediately, because then my opponent still has the option of castling short, and as I have developed my expanded my pawns, now he can attack them, and now I would have to exchange the pawns here, yeah, on a4. And then see, now this pawn is kind of weak, because there's one piece attacking it, two pieces, and maybe the third one will come, and then sooner or later this pawn will drop, and this is not good. But my opponent played a3, so it's okay, it's good, thank you. Super zing, my opponent. So bishop e7, probably knight b d7 is a little bit more precise. Okay, but bishop e7 is okay. Queen d2, so I thought, is my opponent going to castle long? Okay, then we're gonna have a very nice, lively game. Again, a4 is better. There's the idea of b4, but you know, there are some lines here. So for example, knight d5, knight takes, e takes, and bishop f5. But then now these pawns are too advanced. Maybe they'll become a little fragile, a little weak sooner or later. So I don't know, there are pros and cons about this position, this formation, this pawn formation. But my opponent didn't play that. He played queen d2. Then now I played Knight b d7. The computer suggests castling, but yeah, let's wait. It's the same here, not much difference. And then my opponent made a little imprecision here, because bishop d3 is not the best. There are some crazy lines with g4, so black is gonna attack on the king side, and white is gonna attack on the queen side, queen side, and then there will be some crazy shots and fights here. Yeah, so this is gonna be a nice and interesting game, because after short castling, long castling, see, now the kings are on opposite sides, so the fight will be about kings. Who gets first wins. Yes. Then knight b6, knight a5, and rook c8. So I'm going to attack here, and my opponent's going to attack here. Okay, but bishop d3, then knight b6. See, my knight's gonna go to c4. Yeah, to try to get the pair of bishops or attack my opponent's king if he castles long. Depends what he does. Then he castled short. Then interesting. Now I'm gonna castle short too. That's what I did. Castles. Then h3. This is, of course, he was probably thinking about f4. That's why he played h3. Yeah, to prevent my knight from coming to g4. But this is a move that doesn't help white a lot. It's maybe a loss of time, a waste of time. Better would have been to play knight a5, then queen c7, king h1, yeah, because of this diagonal. So maybe now, if white decides it's a good idea to take this knight, and there's no check. Yeah. Okay, h3. My knight goes to c4, of course. That's where it belongs. Bishop takes. This is usually, more intuitively speaking, to take with the bishop. Yeah. But better it's better to take with the pawn, because now my opponent's knight will go to c1. Yeah, and if I take with the bishop, then after the rook leaves the f1 square, now my opponent has some good ideas about playing knight a5, and then going to c6, and maybe getting the pair of bishops. No, not the pair of bishops anymore, but now I'm gonna lose the pair of bishops. So that's why I think it's better to take with the bishop, with the pawn. Knight c1. Now here, this is one of the things that we have to do when we play the Sicilian. We have to play d5. This is of paramount importance. So at this moment, much better would have been to play d5. So he takes, knight takes, knight takes, queen takes, queen takes, bishop takes, and this is probably what would have happened before, but this exact position happened one move later. Okay, then knight a2, rook fb8, knight c3, and bishop c6. So this bishop is very good. Yeah, it dominates all the important squares. Good bishop. Yes. But instead of d5, I played rook b8, and it's not gonna change a lot. I played rook b8 because I was thinking about this pawn here, of course, but also after d5 we have the idea of taking on a3, and this this rook sometimes is unprise, so it's not defended. So there are some ideas about this. That's why I played rook b8 first. Then my opponent defended, of course. The computer suggests you play b4, and then I would take en passant, and then take it. I thought, why not take on b3? Then yeah, white sacrificed a pawn. Okay, then take takes. Then maybe take with the rook and take with the rook. And queen c7, queen d3, attacking this pawn. I can play h6 because he can't take on a6 because of the knight on c3. Then it would fall. Now the knight is defended, and now I can play the pawn to a5. And in case of knight b5, then I play queen d7, and it's okay, nothing special here. The only bad thing about black's position is this pawn on d6. It's a little bit bad, but yeah, now it's not so bad. Okay, the position is equal according to Stockfish. Okay, then after rook b1, I played d5. Yeah, I knew about this. This is very important to play d5 when we play the Sicilian. So I played it, even getting an isolated pawn on c4, but no problem. You can play this. No, don't worry. So e takes, knight takes, knight takes, queen takes, queen takes, bishop takes. See, as I said before, we reached this position one move later. The position is equal here. Black's a little bit better, but then yeah, after rook d1, I thought about this idea, yeah, to play bishop e6 and then f5 and then attack this pawn that is kinda vulnerable, and this rook has to be here to defend this pawn. And as I said before, if white hadn't played rook d1, now I could take on a3 because of this rook is pinned. So now I have to play to defend my bishop. So better would have been to play knight a2 to connect the rooks. Yes. Okay, then probably I would play this rook fd8, rook fd1, and h5 just to get some freedom to my king in case it's necessary. It's always advisable to do that. Okay, but after rook d1, I have to defend my bishop. It's attacked by the rook, so I played bishop e6. Why didn't I play bishop c6? Because I had that idea to come here first and then attack this pawn here on c2. Okay, knight e2, knight e2. Yes, that's a logical move. It's a good move. But now I played bishop f5, and now white has to defend. See, I am attacking b2 and c2, so that's a good move. Bishops are very powerful. When you have the pair of bishops, you have to try to get open positions as much as possible, because the bishops are very powerful. Yeah, different from knights. Knights, they infiltrate. They are able to infiltrate and get to very, very good squares, important squares, but bishops can attack from the distance. Okay, so after bishop f5, rook dc1. Yeah, that's a horrible move, but that's the best move in the position. Okay, so black is a little bit better, of course. Now I played rook fd8, g4. Okay, the computer suggests knight g3, but we've reached this position, I think. The same. So bishop g6, knight e4, and h5. So this knight is well placed here, but it can't be here forever because I can play f5 and expel it from this good position, good square. Okay, after g4, then of course I have to play the bishop to g6, knight c3. See, as I have said before, the knights are powerful when we think about infiltration. So there are some places here that, in case I didn't have the pair of bishops, this knight could be dangerous. But that's not the case. h6. Yeah, here I thought about exchanging the bishops because this bishop is very good. But yeah, it proved later that it was not a good idea. A much better move would have been to play f5 immediately. And in case of g takes f5, then my bishop takes. And as you can see, my bishop is attacking both pawns. And that's what I said about the bishops, the power of bishops. Yeah, they are very good. They're good when the position is open. Then my opponent would probably play king g2 to defend this pawn on h3, and then rook b7 with the purpose of doubling the rooks on the b file or the d file, depending on the circumstances. As I said before, I thought about playing h6 to exchange the dark squared bishop in order to play my rook to d2. Yeah, it's a reasonable thinking, but it was not the best. Unfortunately, sometimes it happens. So, after h6, my opponent played bishop a7, and it's not good because he gave me the chance to double my rooks on the b file or the d file, as I said before. Better would have been to play king f2, and then I would lose a tempo to play rook b7 and not being helped by my opponent who played bishop a7, and then when I played rook b7 he had to go back, so he lost a tempo. Yeah, it was a tempo wasted. And then here now I have the same position, but my rook is on b7 now. I play that move that I said before to exchange the bishops, bishop g5, yeah, just to exchange the dark squared bishops. Now my opponent can't avoid this, so he took on g5, I took with the pawn. Okay, this is kind of good. Now my rook can invade my opponent's position, yeah, and win this pawn. But my opponent played knight e4, and according to the computer it's not good. Much better, but also not the best. Like the position, white's position is not good anymore. It's kind of sufferable. But then after before c takes, rook takes, and then here rook c7, knight e4, then bishop would take, f would take, rook c4 attacking the pawn. Is it gonna fall? Let's see. Then see, so after rook b4 it's a draw. See, there's no way to win this pawn. This pawn is kind of weak. Maybe it's possible to double here, but then White takes, black takes. I don't know, I think this pawn is gonna fall. But yeah, let's check the... Yeah, black's a little bit better. A little bit better, but I don't know if it's enough to win. Okay, let's put the mark here and remove this and save the game. Okay, so yeah, well, black would be a little bit better, but yeah, after 94, then I took, of course. I took, and it's a good move. Then my opponent retook it, and then I played rook d2. See, sometimes we have an idea first, but then after 2 or 3 moves we have to change this idea. The plans are completely different, and that's one of the things we have to be flexible and change our minds. But yeah, for me, see, I played this with 2 seconds, so I didn't think, and I had 9 minutes and 30 seconds. So why play so fast? Okay, so a better move would have been to play rook d b8, because now 2 pieces are attacking this pawn. Yeah, and now white has to play rook d1, for example. I would win this pawn. Probably white would have to take it, and I would take back. I have some pawns here. Yeah, for example, this pawn is easily defended by f6. This pawn can be defended by my rook. This pawn is weak, but this is the same. And I have chances of attacking this pawn on c2, this pawn on a3, and this pawn on h3, this pawn on g4, and so all my opponent's pawns are weak because of they are too advanced. Yeah, they are advanced. So that's the position we got. So after I played rook d2, my opponent blundered. He played c3, probably because he was thinking his position was difficult already. The computer suggests b4, then I would take en passant, c takes. Now I would attack my opponent's pawns, check, king h7, a4. There are some crazy lines here. So my opponent would try to win this pawn at any cost, but then I would also go after his pawns. So I would take some pawns. See, my opponent's pawns are easily attacked. a5, we think about this, and then check. I can take this, what I'm threatening. Check here and mate, checkmate. Yeah, and this rook is also vulnerable, so that's why he would have to play king g1, then check, king h1, then all my opponent's pawns would fall. b4, e4, b5. See, my opponent's pawns are going. There are some things here about taking on a5, rook c2. Okay, then I would have to go back and b6. See, this pawn is going, man. Rook, oh, there's a threat here to play discover check. b7, king g6 check, discover check. Then rook h2, rook b8. Yeah, because my opponent threatened to promote. Rook c2. Now there's the threat of going to c8, and I would have to sacrifice the rook for the pawn. Miraculously, there's this check, and then Okay, if my opponent played rook h2, I would exchange. Yes, because now this pawn is easily attacked, and my 4 pawns here are gonna win the game. So king g1, and thanks to this check, I would get back to h8, and then I would defend this, and these 4 pawns would win the game. So see, a long variation, a long line, but all winning for black. But after c3, then I took, of course, on b2. My opponent took, I retook, and then he made a mistake. Yeah, when we have a difficult position, yeah, it's usually very easy to make a mistake, because yeah, see here, for example, my opponent has 4 islands of pawns, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have 1, 2, 3, 3, only 3. So it's much easier for me to attack his pawns. Yeah, and then he played rook d1. The computer suggests a4 and f6, yeah, just to defend my pawns, but black is much better here. But after rook d1, what can I do? Attack his pawns. Rook d5, attacking my e5 pawn. I easily defended it. Rook a5, okay, that's good. Attack it. It's gonna win my pawn, but I'm gonna win other pawns. So he took this pawn on a6, then I attacked his pawns. The computer suggests to take on h3. It's better, because this pawn is not going anywhere. Yeah, because my rook is gonna go behind it, and my king is gonna go to g6. So my opponent couldn't promote this knight, this pawn. Okay, so rook e3. Yeah, I was willing to take his pawns in the middle, but yeah, it would be better to take on h3 first. And there's another thing, I don't know why, but you know, I had 9 minutes. Why didn't I think more about the positions and calculate it more? So this is something I have to improve about my game. Sometimes I have time, but I don't take advantage of this time. It was the case in this game. So rook e3, rook c6, I took on e4, my opponent advanced, I advanced on c3, my opponent took, I took. See, now we have 4 pawns against 2. This is winning? Yes, of course this is winning, but it's a rook endgame. I've been studying rook endgames lately, Carsten Miller course. Very difficult. Rook endgames are usually very difficult. That's why we have to study them a lot. Very difficult to master, not easy at all. But yeah, we have to keep playing, keep studying, keep making mistakes. That's what we have to do. King f2. Now the kings go to the center of the board. The queens are not here anymore. They were exchanged. One pair of rooks were exchanged, bishops, knights, so now it's time for the king to go to the fight and probably decide the game. And I played here rook f4 because I wanted to cut my opponent's king, and I was lucky because he played king g3. Now my opponent can't go to this side of the board. Yeah, these guys here. Yeah, my opponent can't go to this side. Okay, and when he played king g3, I played e4. Maybe it's a little bit better to play rook d4, yeah, to to be farther, because a little bit later my rook was attacked by his king. So this was the move. But e4 is okay. It's winning. No problem. Rook e3, attacking my pawn, okay. But there's something better here, according to the computer. But yeah, to cut my king. But then I would try to do something different, to play and attack my opponent's king. e3, see, my opponent's king is cut, so this pawn can go ahead. And then check. There are some checks, and my king is free to go and help this pawn to promote. Yeah, now rook e8 was threatened to win this pawn. Now I got out of the way, and here black is better, of course. Okay, so rook e3, it's okay. It was a good idea. He was trying to block my pawn, but boy, there's a very beautiful move here. Yeah, and it's rook f3 check. So I would sacrifice a pawn, but I would go to a winning pawn endgame. So take a look. Black has no, white has no alternative. They have to take. Then I would take king takes, knight f7, knight, king, king e4, g6. See, I have one extra pawn, and this will make the difference. King d4, king e6. Now my opponent tries to get the opposition. d6, king d6, king d4, f5. See, now I break my opponent's pawns. If he takes, it would be easy. Now I have two connected pawns. My opponent's pawn is kind of vulnerable and can't move. Then I would win with this idea of opposition. Yes, very easy to win. And in case my opponent didn't exchange on f5, then I would win through opposition the same way. In case of this, opposition again. Yes. But yeah, I didn't see this pawn sacrifice, and it was not so difficult. Yeah, if I had stopped, take a look at the clock, 8 minutes 56 seconds. If I had stopped and think, I would find this or not. Okay, but this was not desperation yet, so I played a more sensible, more human move, like king f7. Now I have to go to the center of the board with my king. Rook e2, king e6, h4. See, as I said before, if my rook would be here, this would not happen. Yeah, this pawn would not be a problem. But okay, I checked here first. Okay, king g2, king e5, now defending my pawn. My opponent took on g5. I took with my pawn. There's a crazy line here. It's king f4 and g takes, queen, rook d2 and g takes. And I have two connected pawns. Very easy to win. So g, yeah, let's see. Rook f3, king d2, king e5, h take, took, f took, and now my opponent goes to the other side of the board. This is correct. That's what we usually have to do, to try to draw by checks. Yeah, but my king infiltrated, and then rook a7. I took the pawn. Now I have two pawns. Yeah, it's according to the computer it's better to play rook d3, and then my opponent's king would try to go to the center of the board, check, king e2, rook d2 check, king e1. Now I would take. See, this black is courageous. And then black takes. Now I give some space to my rook. Yeah, I would take it to the farthest place to avoid being attacked by the king. And then king f1, and I would try now to advance this pawn, move it forward with the help of the king, and working as an umbrella, yeah, trying to hide behind the pawn. So this is a very common theme. So okay, after I took on g4, then my opponent took this pawn. It was not important anyway. And here, I even studied this, and I don't know why I didn't play that. There's this cutting sideways, yeah. When you cut your opponent's king sideways, and then you are threatening to check here, and my opponent will have to go to the first rank. So this is very important, this maneuver. So maybe king f2, then check. My opponent would stand in front of the pawn. This is good. Now I'm threatening to play rook a2 check. My opponent would make some moves. If he checked, I would go to g3, and then next time when he attacks this pawn, then I move it forward. So now there's this check, and then king d3, e2, my pawn is gonna promote. f6, rook f6 check, king g3, now my opponent's gonna march. Rook e6, attacking the pawn, I have to defend it. King f3, rook f6, yeah, if we keep going this 3 repetitions, this is gonna be a draw. And then king g2, attacking my pawn, I defend it, check again, and then I go to e1, and this is Luciano's position with 1 extra pawn, but this is easily winning. I go to the 4th rank, yes, and then I check my opponent's king, but here I can even play it easier to play the king to d1 and promote my pawn. Very easy. So this, then I would go to d1. Now there's a threat here, it's mate, so black has to be alert. Then check, and then king c3, then I would promote, then check. Now I have escape 3-2, then take and take, and this is easily winning. I'm gonna make another queen, easy. In case of rook f7 check, then I would go there again, but I played this just to stop my opponent's checks. It makes sense, but it was harder, like a longer path. Rook e7, okay, attacking my pawn. Yeah, because my idea was to play this and this and put my rook behind the pawn, and then I can advance. Okay, then here king f4, defending my pawn. Now my opponent's king goes. He wants to stay in front of the pawn, of course. Then I tried to exchange the rooks. My opponent declined, of course. King g4. Now my rook is behind the pawn, so that's the ideal. King e3, of course. We have to block with the king, that's the best. King g3. Now I want to move forward this g-pawn. Rook g7, g4, defending. Rook a7. See, now my opponent goes to the other side of the board to try to give some checks and draw the game. The computer suggests some crazy lines here. Actually, it's the table, endgame table basis. It's rook c5, counterintuitive, sacrifice this pawn, and then king h3, rook h7 check, king goes to g2, queen f4, check on c4, king f5, rook a4, interesting, rook b7, pawn advances, rook b2 check, king goes to h1, rook e2, there's nothing better, and g2, and this pawn is gonna promote. There's nothing you can do to avoid this, and then you'll have to check with rook and king. Easy, easy. So king h3, check. Oh no, this was a kind of a cheap move that I felt to it. You know, my opponent is threatening to move the king and check, but you know, I had 7 minutes, almost 8 minutes, and believe it or not, I played the worst move in the position. Yeah, the only move that gets the draw. Like, man, why are you so stupid? So yeah, here it would have been much better to just move the rook, yeah, to any place, or even the king to g3 would be winning for black, because then my opponent would play king d4 check. It sounds a problem, but it's not a problem, because then I would defend my rook with my king, and there's nothing black can do. Yeah, white can't do anything. Next move I would remove my rook from e5, and then I would advance this guy, or even now I could, yeah. Or rook e8 would also be winning in case of king d2 check. I could even check him in return. Then in case of exchanging everything, then this is winning for black, of course. It's very easy. Rook e6 would be winning too. Because of this, I would play this. Again, if white takes, it's winning for black. But this g3 was horrible, man. Horrible. The worst move possible. Unbelievable. Then my opponent played king f4. Now, take a look at the tragedy. It's tragic. Now my opponent is attacking my rook and is attacking this pawn. And see, I played this in 5 seconds. Why? Why 5 seconds? Why? Yeah, you have 5 minutes. 7 minutes 53 seconds. Why didn't you think more, you stupid creature? Okay, that's life. So king f4, double attack, like, whoa. Then rook e8, trying to survive now, but now it's too late, because then there's the check on g3. king h2, and now my opponent goes to e3, and this pawn on e4 is gone, and all the chances of winning are gone too. Are gone with it. So king g2 and rook takes, check, and king takes, and it's a draw. Whew, sad, isn't it? It's a tragic comedy. Is it the name for this? Yeah, it's a tragic thing. Okay, but that's very instructive. Good. I think next time I'm gonna think a little bit more about this and try to avoid this mistake my opponent skipped. Yeah, good. I think it's nice. It was a nice game. I think we were very kind of, anxious, nervous, and my opponent, I stopped thinking and looking at the clock. So that's why we made these mistakes. Yeah, let's keep studying, keep playing. You are the driving force above all other things. Keep going, keep studying. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.